Governance controls. So in ITIL, we're going to talk about governance controls. It's one of the foundational topics that we want to cover. Now, I mentioned before that we want to make sure that we have leadership, management, and vision. Now, why is that so important? Well, no matter how good your service or process design is, it's wasted if you don't have good leadership, management, and vision, because somebody has to oversee it. Now, when we start looking at who's going to oversee this, we have to start thinking about governance. And the reason why is, how are you going to decide which squeaky wheel gets the grease? Now, what I mean by that is, let's say you're in charge of the IT department, and you get 1,000 calls a day. Who is the priority? Who's the first one you're going to fix? Who's the last one you're going to fix? Are you going to do this just based on which call came in first? Are you going to do it based on how senior the person is? So if it's the CEO, are you going to run right off and do it? If it's a department head, do you drop everything and help them? These are the kind of questions you have to figure out, and your governance and policy is going to help you determine that. Otherwise, you just start going with who complains the loudest, and basically the squeaky wheel gets the grease. And that's not an effective way to run, because this will just start bypassing your processes, and it just makes things go haywire. So when we start talking about governance control, this is going to ensure fairness and transparency. So if we make rules, for instance, first in, first out, the first customer that calls is going to get service, the last customer that calls gets the last service, that's fairness and transparency. Or we might tell everybody, hey, if you are an executive level person, you're front of the line privilege. If you're a new person who works in the mailroom, for instance, you're at the bottom of the barrel. And there could be a rank structure to this, or some kind of a hierarchy. That's okay as long as you have that fairness and transparency, and governance is going to give you that. The other thing is the business needs to determine your resource allocation, not doing this based on who's going to complain the loudest. So what I mean by that is that when you have proper governance and you have proper rules and transparency, people understand what the pecking order is. They understand how things are going to be divvied out. For instance, if we are a banking system, then probably the most important thing is to make sure that the bank tellers are taken care of, right? So they can distribute money to the customers. If we're a sales organization, we want to make sure the salesmen are taken care of first, right? And each one is very different depending on what your goal is in your organization. For instance, where I work, we break things up into operations, and then we do it versus IT, and we have to start thinking, well, operations is important. They get to go first, IT will follow in second and support them. These are the hierarchies that governance is going to help us develop. The other thing that governance does is it focuses on conformity and compliance. Now, the great thing with conformity and compliance is that everyone is going to be marching to the same beat of the same drum. We're all in step, we're all doing the same thing. Again, it's that standardness, that fairness, that transparency, conformity, and compliance. It really helps having this governance there. Now, the other thing that governance really helps you with is dealing with legislative requirements. So, if you're in a financial institution, for instance, you might fall under Sarbanes-Oxley. If you're a healthcare institution, you have HIPAA requirements. If you work for a government agency, there's Freedom of Information Act. So there's different laws that we have to comply with, and if we have the proper governance in place and we're doing this right management and oversight, which governance gives us, we're going to be able to be ready when we have an audit and pass that audit successfully. The goal here is to meet all of our audit requirements and use resources to the maximum creation of value in our business. Again, if I'm going to expend $1, I need to get at least $1 of value back. That doesn't mean $1 of profit, it means $1 of value. And again, we talked about that value in business and how that's going to relate to getting our customers what they need. This is just wrapping all this back up, and it reminds you that governance is what's going to help get you there. It's what keeps you on the straight path. It's what tells everybody that we're all marching in step.